Okay, everyone, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. I have a great guest on the show today. If you ever wanted to become an icon, we have someone here who can help you with that. She actually does that. She does that. She makes icons, and it's so cool. Not the icons on your computer screen, but icons of people. And Sheryl's here to talk about that and what she does in podcasting. She's my guest co-host on the show today. I love talking to other people in the space. We're going to learn a lot. Sheryl, welcome to the How to Podcast series.
Hi, Dave. Great to be here. Yes, I love to dive into this topic. We have some unique perspectives, shall we say, on podcasting and how to actually leverage it properly. So happy to get into this conversation with you today. And you're right about the icons, not the little ones on your screen, although I can design a pretty good one on Canva myself.
Sure.
But it's not really my main area of expertise.
Your icons are a little bigger than what's on our screen.
Yeah,
a little bit bigger. Tell us, Sheryl, who do you serve? Like, who are you working with? Tell us more about icon makers.
We're working with coaches, consultants, experts. That includes speakers and authors who are looking to become icons in their niche. And our definition of what that is to build more influence, to have a bigger impact through their work, and to, obviously, if you have a business, you need income. And that's to increase the income as well. One of the things that we believe is that you ought to be doing good and making money at the same time, rather than waiting until you're successful to be able to give back to your community or give back to those charities that are important to you. Do it along the way. So we serve coaches and entrepreneurs who are looking to build 6- and 7-figure businesses through podcasting.
Wow. Okay, now tell me, how does podcasting then kind of work into that whole process?
I think it's predominantly about how podcasting is, as you would know, and you know because you do so much podcasting and have so many shows yourself, is that it's a unique modality. I don't think anything comes close to podcasting in terms of foundational relationship building activities that every business owner should be doing on a consistent basis. So no matter what algorithm changes happen or what social platform comes into play next year or the year after, or what changes happen or what pandemic comes knocking on our door, the foundation of good business practice is to build relationships. And why I'm excited about podcasting and why we've decided to use this as the platform by which to leverage it is because it's built on conversation. It's about having conversations with other people. So it kind of forces your hand at starting those relationships. And that's why we're excited about using podcasting to do so. It's foundational to good business practice, and it's very much aligned to doing so.
Okay. All right. So when someone comes into your world to work with you and they don't understand podcasting, what else can you do to explain to them the value of podcasting to help build their icon status?
I say to them, it's really conversation. You do this every day of your business life anyway, or at least you should be talking to people. And it's not, you don't have to learn anything special to be able to talk to people, although you can certainly apply strategies for how to structure conversations to be able to extract whatever it is that you're looking to extract from a conversation. Certainly there's strategies there, but most people know how to talk to other people to some degree. And so you don't have to be an expert broadcaster or an expert host or an expert radio person to benefit from all that podcasting has to offer. And the thing that I like about it too is that, hey, you know what? You get to be yourself. You get to be authentically you in those conversations as a host and as a guest. You can just be yourself. So it's interesting for us, we don't even broach the podcasting in our program until stage 3 of the program because it doesn't come into play quite yet. What has to happen first are stages 2 and 1, where we help them to get clear on who it is they're serving, what kind of high ticket offer they're putting forth. Is that validated? Will people pay for whatever it is that you're conceptualizing in your offer to help them with? And so we have stages that we have to put people through before they even get to the podcasting part. But if people are trying to jump the queue and ask those questions, Dave, about, how does podcasting play out for me? I would say, well, it's great because you get to just be yourself. You get to have conversations. You get to talk to people. And that's going to be what will help drive dialogue and relationships forward.
Yeah, and you're adding new people to your community. You're building connections with people you would never meet otherwise. There's a lot of different things going on behind the scenes outside of the podcast. When people know of you and you know new people, that's always a strength. And podcasting is one of those avenues that opens doors to have time in people's calendars. I've had time with people that I would never could afford their billable hour rates to have sit down with them and have a 1-hour conversation. There's no way I could afford that. But have a podcast, sure, I'll come on and talk to you. And that's such a great, unique opportunity just to be in front of people and learn from some pretty amazing people in the space.
I love that you brought that up. I think that's one of the aspects of podcasting that mostly goes unnoticed. And that is using it to be able to open a door, frankly, to a relationship that you might not have otherwise had access to. We see a lot of people on social media, and I'm sure you and I both have experienced this, where we're being pitched things all the time. We're trying to be sold things all the time. Without there being any established relationship, guess what we do? We ignore those messages. So you don't want to be the person who's being ignored. You want to be the person who's engaged in dialogue and who's providing value and who has an established relationship. And it has to start somewhere. So it needs to be initiated by someone. So if you're the guest, that initiated activity could be you pitching to be on a show to provide value to a host. If you're the host, it could be to do outreach and bring on a specific guest onto your show. But someone has to initiate the beginning of that relationship.
Yeah. And yeah, again, one thing I said to one person, I said, if you want to find your spot, like start the parade, like be the first person to start the whole thing. Get out in front of it, build a community. People will come and find you and start identifying with you when they see and hear things that they identify with. There's something about you that they see themselves in you, or you're at a different stage that they want to be at. You're going to find people that are going to be attracted to you and you get your message out there. But the only way that's ever going to happen is just by starting. So for the podcaster or the person that wants to guest on a podcast is kind of languishing behind thinking, well, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to take that step and get out into that space and get in my face and my voice out in the world. How can we encourage them today that it's time to even just start? What do we do to encourage them to start?
I think the way to encourage them to start is to say that it doesn't have to be a complicated, complex funnel of technology and things that you have to cobble together. And we've made it more complicated than it needs to be. At its core, if you can understand what it is that you do and what your area of expertise is, let's say, you would really dial that in and say, you know what, this is my area of wisdom or expertise. And if you can take that piece of expertise and put it into some type of 3-step framework or a 3-step methodology, that's all you really need to be able to, I think, effectively start going out there and seeking those opportunities as a guest, specifically as a guest, to pitch for opportunities to get out there and speak. Everything else will likely fall into place. Now, we teach some strategies around how to be an engaging podcast guest as kind of the next level of that. But I'm just saying, like, if you have nothing else and you're just sitting there kind of waiting for opportunity to land in your lap, it's not going to happen. You have to get up and get started, to your point. And so I think that if you just looked at and spend an afternoon and probably have that all dialed in, right? It's like, get out a notepad. I love my journals. Sit with a cup of tea and really just think about, like, what is my expertise? What is the thing I'm great at? And what would be a 3-step approach to helping someone accomplish a goal through what it is that I do? And I think from there, you can just start going out there and we provide, templates for people to pitch themselves on shows. A lot of materials out there. You can get yourself booked on shows and just start the process.
Now that leads to a great point. When I have people on the podcast and I'm encouraging people to be a guest on podcasts, I come with value for the listener. Make sure, like, to your point, have your 3 things you want to cover, your 3 main things. But then instead of, when we get to that interesting part of the conversation where we have the call to action, where do we go to find you? How do we connect? Oh, come to my website and sign up for my email. Now, if I could count up how many times I've been invited to somebody's email list with no real reason why I should sign up, like what do I get out of this new relationship between me as a follower of your content and you as the content creator and the guest on that show? There's got to be some kind of rationale or reason for me to sign up. I don't want to just sign up for 100 email newsletters this week. There's got to be something for me. So I encourage guests, when they are going on shows, to have some sort of offer they can offer to a listener. So you have your 3 main points you're on there to talk about. Then can you just summarize that into a downloadable that we can have, and we can access that through your website? That brings me to your site beyond just sign up for a random email address or a newsletter I may or may not get value from. But I know that I want that thing you talked about. So I'm going to go chase that down. So consider making up something that you can offer to the community when they come to you so that they get value. That's one of the suggestions I put out there for people.
Yeah, I love that. And it happens more often than you would think, where people just sign up for my email list. No one wakes up in the morning going, I really want to sign up for 10 new emails today. No one's doing that. But what they are asking themselves is, what are some tools? What are some resources? What are some trainings or things that I could consume that would actually help me accomplish my goal? And that's the difference. That's the difference between providing value and just asking for people to sign up for your email. Like, nobody wants that. So it's a great point that you make.
And I've even encouraged guests when they come on, they want to come on and talk about their thing. I'm like, well, just understand that the most important person in this podcast, you can't see them at the moment. They're going to experience this later when they listen. The listener is the most important person. So if I, as the host, don't bring value and you as the guest don't bring value, then what does that mean to the listener? Otherwise it's just a conversation between two people over Zoom, which is fine. I love meeting people, but if we want this to go out there and impact lives, where's the value add from our conversation? So it's interesting because that makes my guests sit back and listen and go, wait a minute, I was here to talk about my book or my course or my coaching, but what can we give to the listener so they don't have to wait to get to your coaching or your book or your offer? What kind of value can we give them here in the moment to help them, right?
It's interesting too, in thinking about that approach of what it is that you do as an expert, and sitting down and saying, what is a 3-step methodology or a 3-step framework, or 5? I'm using 3 as an example here, but a 3-step framework that I could then take and go out on the road with. Like, that could become your act, to use an old term, to get out there on the road and take my act out on the road. These 3 things in and of itself becomes a system, and a system has value. And the reason why methodologies or 3-step frameworks really well, and especially if there is alliteration, which, for us, it's the triple P podcast monetization strategy. Each of the letters starts with P and there's alliteration. It's easy for people to remember. That's valuable to someone who is looking for solutions on, well, how do I monetize a podcast? Oh, I didn't remember her talking about those 3 Ps. What were they again? Oh, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Patrons, partners, and platforms. Oh, yeah, I remember that now. That's massively valuable to them only because I took it and put it into a framework that's easy to remember.
Yeah.
And you can do the same.
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, I'm remembering too that your listeners to the show are actively doing something else in the moment, possibly right now. They're walking their dog, they're working around the house, they're out in the garden. They don't have a notepad next to them. They're doing something else. They're driving. So keep your hands on the wheels, please. But they're doing something in the moment, so they don't have time. So anytime you can do that to help them remember these things, that's a smart thing to do as a guest.
Yeah, I think that has certainly, helped people to grasp the concept. And that's what you want. You want to be able for people to grasp the concept of what it is that you're sharing in that moment.
Yeah, there's an author I was talking to in the podcast, and they were saying, well, in my book, I cover these 5 points. And I'm like, well, can we talk about any of those points? And they're like, no, you got to buy the book. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Hang on. I'm like, so I tried a couple different ways to kind of get around that wall that they were holding up in front of. And then at one point I just paused the interview. I'm like, okay, just a second here. You realize we're here. I'm so grateful you're here on the show, but the listener needs to walk away with something out of this conversation. I don't want it to be frustrating for them. So anything you can give us would be helpful to them, which will draw more people to you. I know you want to protect the secrets of your book, and I'm here to help you sell books, but we got to give them a taste. It's kind of the Costco food testing thing they have set up when you walk the store. They're handing you a piece of cheese. Now, did you want to go into a store looking for a piece of cheese today? No, that wasn't probably on your plans for the day, but if they're going to hand you a free piece of cheese or chocolate or something, you're going to be like, I'll try it. So we want to give them something in the podcast to give the listener something to grasp onto. So don't be too coy with what you have to offer the world. Like, share something with us.
I think more entrepreneurs would benefit from that lesson of don't hold your cards close to the vest, right? Share willingly, share openly, be generous, share your best stuff. And there are entrepreneurs, very successful people who believe the same and are out there saying the same thing for very good reason. Holding your stuff back is not helping you. It is not helping you at all. Be out there. Ryan Deiss is somebody who comes to my mind recently, just because I just binged his book recently. And I'm working on that personally in our business right now in terms of systematizing and flowcharts and things of that nature. And Ryan Deiss is a really good example of that. He puts it all out there. And we try to follow that pattern as well at Icon Maker. With our workshops, we share everything. We don't hold anything back. We just tell it all. And our hope is that people will learn from those strategies and actually go and do them. Like, we want people to go and do the thing. When you do that, what ends up happening is that a proportion of people do raise their hand and say, I love what you're about. I do want to work. I want to have your help in implementing those things. It just naturally happens that way. The opposite is true, though, I think, of the entrepreneur example, the author example that you just gave, Dave, which is when somebody says, well, you got to buy my book to get the things that I wrote in the book. What does that tell the viewer? What does that tell the person? They're like, that you're not willing, you're not generous. Well, that has an impact on your brand. It has an impact on how people perceive you, because now they go, oh, ding, 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 he just wants to sell his book.
Right.
And so now that's the message that's in their minds about you, not the message of, oh, they're generous, they're giving, they care about my future, they care about what I'm doing. And so you end up shooting yourself in the foot when you take that approach.
Yeah. I love to when a podcast can make the guest more relatable to the listener. So I had one gentleman on, he wrote a 5-step book about living a better life or something along that line. And he went through all 5 steps, which was very kind of him. He went through all 5. He didn't hide anything. But after he was done, I said to him, okay, out of those 5, which one are you struggling with the most today?
Question.
Of his own book. And he's
Great
like,
question. I love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I want people to understand is that we're not all on this mountaintop looking down on the common people here, that we've attained something and we're perfect and you need to get to our level. We're all humans. We're all wrestling with our lives and we're not at a perfect place, any of us. So we want to see the transformation happening in real time. So he shared that, well, I'm not getting enough sleep. That's my problem right now. I'm working really hard and I need to get more time for myself. But thank you for asking me that. Now I got to go back and reread my own book, so that's kind of cool. Because then the listeners are like, oh, good. So you are like one of us. You're not like, unattainable. So that's kind of nice when either you're speaking from stage or you're on a podcast or you're out there in the world, that you don't come across as having it all figured out and that nothing takes you down. Every superhero has to face something. So, as you build icons, I'm sure they have to be very aware of that you're still a human in all of this and that you need to show that side of yourself as well.
100%. I love that you asked that question. That's so smart on your part to ask it that way. And yeah, I believe that as entrepreneurs, we should be open and willing to share the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mhm.
That instills more confidence, I think, in your clients when they see that you don't have everything figured out. You happen to have figured out a certain part, which is what they're coming to you for solutions around, but no one's perfect. Everyone can grow. Everyone can learn. I just was sharing with you just now. I mean, one of the things that we're doing internally is documenting our systems, right? In our flow charts, and in terms of none of that has really been done as effectively as it should be in order for us to grow. That's a weakness of ours. We recognize that. That's why we're focusing on it, and that's why we're working on it. And one of the things that we've discovered too is the more that we share that journey with our clients, when it's appropriate, right? When it's appropriate, we start to share and be open about the things that we're going through, the more they appreciate it, the more they see themselves and go, oh, okay, great. Yeah, no, so I got to anticipate that that's going to happen for me when I reach that level as well. And we're very much open books about that. I think that's important.
Yeah. So for you guys over at Icon Maker, I'm really curious about the name. What makes a good icon?
I think it's somebody that is driven by impact more so, or say more predominantly, let's say, than the income. Certainly you would have to have income, and it needs to be there in order for you to have a business. But we're really more motivated by helping people who are they themselves motivated by having an impact through their work. You know, this idea of, for example, philanthropy is important to us. We want to be able to do good and build our businesses at the same time. So, for example, our workshops, we charge a nominal fee for it, but the fees that we charge go to charity right off the bat. And it's a way for us to be able to, as we're growing and scaling, and we teach this to our clients as well, as you're growing, you're still able to still do that. Now, as you grow and you get bigger, then obviously you'll have more to be able to give back. And so for us, I think it's really about the impact first. That's what we do. We screen, qualify, and award people to come into our program. We're not accepting anybody. We have to screen, qualify, and award people to come into this program. And that's what one of the things, the criteria that we'd look for is this person motivated by impact? Do they really care? You know, are they, if they're a shark and all they really want is, I want to make money and I need a Lambo, and it's just, those are just not our people. Our people are people who got into this because they really wanted to have an impact on others and make a difference in the world, or leave a legacy, or be able to get to a point where they can just write $5,000 and $10,000 checks to the charity of their choice, just cause. The people that are motivated by that are the people that we do our best work with.
Wow. We need more of that in the world.
Yeah, we do.
Goodness.
Yeah, we definitely need more of that.
Okay, so what are you seeing in the podcast space, in that you're working in and around the space so much? Is there anything that we as podcasters can do better at in our podcast, as far as how we serve our audience, how we serve guests, how we work with other agencies and things? Is there anything we can do better as podcasters?
As hosts?
Yeah.
No, I think if you have a good strategy for who it is that you want to have on your show, you have that dialed in, that's probably thing number one. But from a production perspective, I think we have to have a conversation around AI, and we have to have a conversation around what are the tools that you could start to utilize to buy back some of your time, especially if you are producing the show, or in your case, multiple shows.
Yeah.
But if you're doing some of that work yourself, you do need to be more efficient and buy back some of your time. And I think that's where AI comes into play, and being able to utilize tools. And they're changing all the time, and they're coming out so fast and furious, we can hardly keep up. But I think that's one of the things that I see in terms of the future, right? Is how our podcast hosts using AI tools within their, say, production process to make their lives easier and to buy back some of their time.
Yeah, and to not be afraid of that.
And not be afraid of it. It's a tool.
There's some really great tools out there. Yeah, we need to leverage them.
For sure. Yeah, a lot of people are still, I think, afraid of AI, and are they going to replace humans? And I think you should look at it as, how can I leverage it? It's not going anywhere. This is the future. How will I integrate that into my business as a whole? Or certainly, even into the production of a show or a podcast. Like for us at Icon Maker, the way that we're integrating it in is we're using it operationally to collapse time on how fast we can deliver some of our deliverables to our clients. So we include a lot of done-for-you elements in the program. Well, before AI, they would have taken this much time, let's say. Mm-hmm. I don't know, let's say something took 9 weeks, let's just say as an example. Well, now by creating these custom AI tools, and I can leverage that to help cut down that time from 9 weeks to 9 hours or even 9 minutes sometimes.
Wow. Yeah.
So the value of that is huge, not only for us as a business, but for the client to be able to get their thing faster than they might previously have been able to. So that's how we're mostly utilizing AI is operationally, kind of on the back end at this moment. But I think the other way that I use it is as a guest. I like to take the podcast and be able to provide the host, Dave, to provide you with some assets from the episode that you could then use should you wish to. Like, for example, the tool that I like is called Cast Magic. But you're able to take an episode and you can have the AI identify the top 10 key points that came from the episode, or it will generate a tweet that you can copy and paste and put onto Twitter, or whatever the things are. There are countless of ways that you can create these assets. They have a studio set up now where you can create an audiogram, lots of different things. But these tools exist, these AI tools, and they're only getting better and faster. And I think that's what we ought to think about as hosts is how are we leveraging those tools to the degree of either producing our show or even as a guest. I think there are ways that you can use them as well.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason and how we connected through PodMatch. And they have a great AI tool to connect hosts with guests and guests with hosts.
You got it.
And I do have Alex Sampolivo coming on in the future to talk about PodMatch from his perspective, which is great.
That's
I'm so
great.
excited to have him on.
He's fantastic. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's really built just a wonderful tool for both guests and hosts to be able to leverage podcasting. And I think he is a good example of someone who does not hold all the cards close to his vest. He is so generous, so giving. If you just follow his path and what he's doing, he's done amazing things in a short period of time, really, in his business. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. If you were to give any advice to somebody new to PodMatch, from your perspective, any little tips on how they should navigate PodMatch as a new user?
Well, I think your profile page, and really fleshing that out properly and giving thought to how the information that you're making available and, the images that you upload and things of that nature, your media kit. I think you want to give particular thought to how you're structuring that and the types of materials that you're making available to the hosts on that page. I think it's a great platform.
Yeah, and I like how Alex mentions that if you're not active on the platform, they'll actually remove you.
Right.
Because they want active people engaged and using the service, not somebody who set up an account 5 years ago and never came back. They want people that are actively working with it, and you get the proposed matches for you all the time, which you can go through, and you have all the different tools they have built in. It's a really smart platform. I really like it. I'm enjoying it. I'm a new user as the host of a podcast on there. So, but great people right in front of me. Great people have connected through there. So I'm so excited to have that. So that's a great example of an AI tool that could really benefit you, right? Yeah, that's smart. That's really good. So in podcasting sense, what do you think is a great way to leverage a podcast after it's all done? We're done. We recorded. We've moved on to the next thing in our life. The episode goes live, goes out into the universe. What can we do with that content? What can we do to repurpose or keep it alive longer? Any tips?
Yeah, I think it depends. If the podcast is both video and audio, then one of the best things that you could do is to repurpose that and create some short clips get people interested and excited and find some nuggets within the grander scope of the macro interview and create some micro content from that. Now, there are tools now that can do that really easily, like InVideo.ai does. Just upload it and it literally finds the clips for you. I mean, it's fascinating. So I think creating clips, video clips is one thing. Like I said, with the tool that I mentioned earlier, there are any number of ways like transcripts and excerpts and, quotes and top 10 lists and any number of things that can be done just with copy and creating material that way. I think graphics also, I think every business owner ought to have Canva Pro at this point, just use it. It's amazing. Get out there and use that and leverage that tool to be able to create graphics and any number of different types of content. But I think that when you have the macro, right, being, let's say, this podcast as an example, this is a longer form macro content piece that's being created. You have so much avail then to be able to slice and dice and chop and do and have some options there to create micro content. I think the same is true of YouTube videos, right? If you have a YouTube channel and you're building out your YouTube channel, typically, your 10 to 12 minute YouTube video is a macro play that you can then cut up into short pieces. And with the tools that are available today, it makes it even faster and easier than it was even 3 years ago.
Yeah, because one format doesn't work in all places. So a typical long form interview is not going to work as well on TikTok maybe than shorter clips. And the shorter clips might not work in a long form setting like a podcast where people are expecting a longer thing while they're doing their task. They want to be skipping to the next, to the next, to the next. They want to press play and then move on. So yeah, you have to kind of think about the platform that you're focusing on and build your content or your snippets or whatever you're going to do to that content, to that platform. That's going to serve you better than trying to do one piece and send it everywhere and hope it does well everywhere.
Yeah.
Got to be a little more targeted and specific with what you put out in the world.
And don't forget your email list. If you have an email list, don't forget to send your email list, whether you're a guest. So if you're a guest on a show, send that to your email list. They might be interested to watch what you did. If you're a host, I think the same is true. Promote your shows through your email list as well. That's your warm audience.
Mm-hmm. I love hearing a host of a show as a guest on a show because they get asked questions as a guest that they would never answer as a host. And they never would think to talk about that. So you get a different behind the scenes look at your favorite host just by watching them guest on someone else's show. It's kind of unique.
Yeah,
it's very different.
True.
Yeah, we should know more about those. If you're a guest on a show, make sure you let your audience know so they can come and support that. It's very important. It's good. Anything else in podcasting that's catching your eye right now that you're watching as a trend or something you're curious about in the podcasting space?
Well, I think that it's really more about the strategy. We're big proponents of that. It's not only about downloads and metrics and new and noteworthy, and those are wonderful things to accomplish. But if you're really looking to build a big, like a sustainable business, let's say to 7 figures or beyond, just relying on that is not the path. Think about the relationships. Think about your offer. Think about how you can build, again, through the 3 Ps, right? Patrons, partners, especially partners. Building collaborative opportunities with other people so that it's a win-win relationship is the path to helping you grow. And that's not going to change despite all the craziness of the world and the different algorithm changes and all of that. It's foundational. So I think that's what I would leave you with is just thinking about how do I leverage this platform and this format in order to forge better conversations and talk to more people.
That's great. Sheryl, I love having you on. This is so much fun to talk to you.
This is fun.
Talk about like the events that you do through Icon Makers as well. I'm really kind of curious about what those look like. Are they all virtual? Are they all in person? Talk a little bit more about that as well.
We've done several virtual events so far. And our next one will be in April of 2025. We do 3-day virtual events, and then we tack on a mastermind the day before. And it's usually on location. Like all of us fly to a studio and we rent a studio. It's like the Zoomzilla, they used to call it the Zoomzilla with all the screens. And so we do that whole event. That's one of the things that we do. And what we teach are the 8 steps to becoming an icon. We also teach the 8 steps to becoming an icon in our monthly workshops, which is a condensed version of it. But here's what the funny part about it, condensed to 4 hours. It's still 4 hours long to be able to share the strategies and all of the 8 steps to becoming an icon in 4 hours. We make that happen. So those are a few ways in which we teach people different strategies, like strategic risk reversal is a big one. We teach anuragging. We teach high ticket offers and show examples. We talk about the 3 Ps of podcast monetization. All of these different strategies take some time to explain, and then we teach that over the course of that time. The other thing that we do, we have a Facebook group called Podcast Monetization System, and that's for guests and hosts, and they can come and join that group, and we will do other trainings within the group itself. Often we're asking our members, like, what do you want to learn? Like, what is on your mind? And then we will do tailored trainings to help people understand how to be a better guest, how to be a better host, and to help them understand the path to monetization.
Wow. Some great resources for our audience then to tap into. And again, you're saying you're working with authors and a bunch of different people, right? So who could we meet at one of these events?
Like experts, speakers, authors, people that are coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs that are packaging their expertise and wisdom into products and services for sale. I mean, they're essentially taking their IP, their intellectual property, and they're packaging that up for sale. And so it's really the expert entrepreneur space is where we are and who we serve. So long as that person is really driven by impact, they really fit well into our community.
So what makes you happy about all this as one of the creators of Icon Makers? What makes you happy?
From a personal perspective, I've been a solopreneur for so many years, and it pleases me now to be part of a joint venture along with 2 other seasoned business owners so that I'm not on this on my own anymore. Like it actually pleases me to be with Tom and to be with Dannella and for us to have this collaborative opportunity to work together and to work with 2 really, really smart and seasoned entrepreneurs, because I'm learning a lot in the process. So from a personal perspective, that makes me happy. The other thing that makes me happy is we're dedicated to results. Our whole program is built on results. And so I love and strive for results in other people. And I think that that's a theme. It's a theme that I have seen now as I look back on my own life. I've always been interested in doing that. Even as a teenager, I was interested in helping put other people on a pedestal and helping other people have a voice and helping other people to shine. And now I get to do that on a professional level as an entrepreneur.
So what would make me happy is for you to talk to the podcaster that's listening, that's super curious about you and all the things you do. Talk to the podcaster specifically, and what's your words of encouragement as we wrap up here today on the podcast?
Have a strategy. If you're looking to do a podcast for business, and it's truly for business and is meant to be driving business, there has to be a strategy for that to be effective. And think about relationships. Think about foundational, back to basic activities that you should be doing as a business owner. And really audit yourself. Think about the activities that you do on a daily basis or on a weekly basis and jot them down. I think sometimes you might be surprised to learn, wow, I haven't even lifted my head off this keyboard all week. I've been building this funnel, for example, or I've been doing these activities that haven't resulted in conversation, that haven't resulted in talking to actual people. And why am I avoiding that? Sometimes we're avoiding it because we're fearful of rejection. We're avoiding it because we don't know whether people will be receptive to our ideas. There can be any number of reasons why someone is avoiding doing the things that they probably deep down know they should be doing. So if you're listening to this right now and you are a podcaster and you are questioning how to truly make this work for your business, I want you to be thinking about, am I really leveraging it to build high trust relationships? And if not, then certainly we're here to help.
Excellent. All the information, as always, will be in the show notes, everyone. This is great. As we wrap up, one thing I'd love from you, Sheryl, I'm doing a question of the month to the audience. And what I do is I pose a question to everyone and I ask them to respond. So this is how it's kind of framed.
Okay.
You come on, I'm using SpeakPipe on my website. You come on and you give us your name. You give us the name of your podcast or a podcast that you love. And then you answer the question of the month, which simply is because of a podcast. And then you fill in the blank. Could be anything. And you kind of give us your answer. And what I do is I collect all the answers at the end of the month, compile them into one episode, and we go from podcaster to podcaster to podcaster. And we get to hear all these different stories, all compiled around one central question. Okay? So for you, as we end off today, I'm going to pull this little segment out and have it as well on a different episode.
Okay.
But from your perspective, just introduce yourself as if it's like a little commercial, your name, a podcast that you love or that you have, and because of a podcast, and then you fill in the blank. Can you do that for me as we wrap
And
up?
how much time do I have?
You can do whatever you like.
I'll make it
sit
short.
back and enjoy the answer. So think about it for a moment, and I'll let you kind of ruminate on that.
Yeah.
And then we can jump in, and we'll just pull this section out at the end.
All right. I'm going to see you.
All
right.
You good?
I think so.
I'm throwing it at you. I'm not giving you any warning at all. So everyone listening, Sheryl had no idea.
No idea we were doing it.
So there you go. Okay?
Yeah.
You ready? Okay, off you go.
Hey, I'm Sheryl Plouffe from Icon Maker. The podcast that I love is AI Explored by Michael Stelzner. In fact, I love all of his podcasts, but that one in particular, I'm really loving and excited about. And what it's really done for me is it's helped me get even more excited than I already was about AI and how we use it for business. And I've learned so much just from listening to him and the experts that he's brought onto his podcast.
Excellent. Perfect. Well done. See, you pulled that out of nowhere. That was so well done. See?
Yay.
Everyone, all the information for Sheryl's in the show notes as always. Sheryl, thank you so much for being part of the show.
Thank you.
Congratulations on all the great things you do for all the people you serve. I know they're very grateful and looking forward to watching with great interest. What's next for the three of you over at Icon Maker? Thank you for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. Appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast all the way through to the end. I love having these great guest co-hosts on the show to share their podcasts with you. You have some homework to do. And what I'm asking of you is to go check out our featured guest co-host today. Go over and listen to their podcast. The links are always in the show notes. I'd love for you to go and give them your love and support. And I think if we can all do that for each other, podcasting will be a lot more fun for all of us. So it's time to do what you've asked others to do for you. It's time to do for this guest co-host. Links in the show notes. Go over and check out their show and leave them a review, do the follow, go listen to their episodes in full, the entirety of an episode, which again shows to the apps that it's a good podcast because you're going there and you're staying to the end. It's probably one of the best ways you can help a podcaster grow their audience and be shown to more people is by simply going and listening wherever you listen to the very end, like you're doing right now here. This is the perfect way to signal to wherever you're listening on, this is a podcast worth promoting. And all of the apps want you to stay on as long as possible. So go over and listen to our guest co-host episode and leave them some feedback. If they have a buy me a coffee, send them a coffee. If they have a SpeakPipe, send them a voice message. If they have an email, send them an email. If they're on Instagram, send them a direct message. Do something to support our guest co-hosts. They've given up their time to be here with you, to be here with me, and we can give that back to them with time and attention, our love, our support, Thank you for doing all that for me as well. Here on the How to Podcast series, we'll talk to you soon for our next episode.